Have you guys ever had one of these where you basically just jump the ball? Well, let's go into this. So the physics of the draw shot. I wish you would be right behind it, but you can't because of the camera. Why did that ball jump? Well, number one, it's clear. You're basically scooping it, okay? So you're hitting it somewhere right here or a little bit even. So if this is the center, okay, if you're going more than about 1.5 tip below, you will actually scoop the ball, okay? So, and the only time this could actually work is if you really lower lower the cue all the way down, then it might work. But because if you're on the rail and you're hitting it right below, that doesn't work. So about 1 tip below and just relax and let it go. The number two is the distance of the bridge. Okay, so this here could work, but it's really hard. So what you want to do is basically make about, I would say, 8 to 12 inches. If you go longer, the problem with going longer than that is the precision, okay? And because then it's gonna start wiggle a lot, okay? So if you want really good stroke for the back draw, which you're hitting it right here, is about, so about 8 to 10, 12 inches maximum, okay? Not 3 or 6. This is way too short, okay? So I don't know if you can see up here like this, maybe better. So this is about optimal way of when you're doing a draw shot and hitting it the ball right here. To start with the draw shots, I would not suggest to have about 1 foot because the draw actually is very hard to do. Do about 2 or 3 feet at first. Let's say here, I'm gonna do about, this is about 2 feet away, okay? And then first what you can do is just tip, okay? So I'm gonna do just a little bit below, okay? A little bit. And you saw the cue ball go straight back and a little bit, okay? So now, how many times this I would do till you're really comfortable where the ball, here's where the beginning is, hits the object ball and comes back to the point. Then progress with more and more, where you basically are hitting the ball a little bit lower, okay? A little bit lower, and it goes back. Now, even with this one, yes, the ball did roll back, but did you saw how it actually went this way? That is because when I hit the ball, this is the center, I hit it a little bit below center, right here, and then a little bit left, okay? I mean right, I'm sorry, in this case. So a little bit to the right. And what happens is that when the ball hits the object ball, it goes backwards like that. I believe the grip is one of the important parts when you're doing a draw shot, okay? So what happens when you're holding it a little bit tighter, or even like when you're holding it a little bit tighter, okay? When you are doing the follow through, okay? So in this case, I can't show you from this angle. What happens is, here you can't see it from this angle, but what happens is when you are hitting right here and when you're squeezing it, it actually goes even more down. So make sure when you're holding, when you're holding, I usually prefer to hold with 4 fingers. This one is a little bit loose, or even with the 5, but about like this. Okay, so you can see the hole, right? I'm not holding this really tight. Okay, not like this, not like this. So make sure you're holding it like loosely, so it's almost going to slip, but not really. Okay, so and to get to the point again of the draw shot, back, and make sure you saw the ball move about what 4 or 5 feet backwards. Okay, then what you do up next, once you, let's say you do this 10 times, okay, and it's all good. So now let's move on to a little bit harder. So how does one know? How does a one know when you do something like this, where it's basically a stop shot versus a draw shot? In simple term, is this. Number one is obviously where are you going to hit the ball. So for this one, for this distance, okay, about 5 feet, I used half of the tip, so just a little bit below the center of the cue ball, okay? If I want to draw shot, I need to, or draw spin, whatever you want to call it, I need to hit about one below, and it's not just that, okay? Because when you practice from the from the close, what happens is that when you do that draw, there's more fraction. What happens when you're on distance is that when you do this draw shot, at the later point around right here, it actually does a forward. So, and how does that happen is with a, when you're doing how hard you're actually going to execute. So in this case, I'm going to do a little bit more. So you saw it traveled about 1.5 foot. But what if I wanted to make it right about here? Okay. And one more important part also, draw shot is basically chalk, okay? Don't do it like this and then just the top here is chalk, okay? Always, when you're chalking, to turn it around, chalk, make sure these angles right here are all covered, because what happens is when you're doing a draw shot here, right here, you're hitting also at the very bottom, okay, or very top, depending on how you're playing. So for this one here, okay, let's do a draw shot, but with a little bit more of a speed, and loosen up. And I was gonna hit the microphone. It went all the way back. So I did a little bit too much. I actually wanted to put it right here. So let's try that again and do that again. I must say that it's very difficult when you're doing a draw shot is the speed of the speed in itself, and then also the follow through, because like I said, I wanted to have the cue ball somewhere around here, okay? And in order, when I do that, the last one, I did a little bit too much power. So in this one, I did again a little bit more but better. So what, for me to practice something like this, and yourself too, go back and remember how much of a draw you did. So the basic is the ball went here or somewhere between around here. Okay, so when you're doing a draw, sometimes when you do need to make a draw, but coming this way or that way, not necessarily straight. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper. Now that I know that one of them was way too much and the other one was a little bit better, now I know the speed should be less than what I did for past two times. So this is perfect. Okay, I went all the way back. So when you're practicing the draw shot, like I said, it's not about just pulling it back. It's also the speed, as you saw at the very beginning of this particular session, is when there is a ball, right? So if this is straight, okay, and I want to make a stop shot, I know perfectly what type of a speed I need to do. Okay, this one, it went a little bit back, okay, just because I'm talking and everything, and but like I said, this in itself, when you want the draw shot, it's all about the speed. And also, like I said, make sure when you're hitting the ball, it's one tip below, okay, and coming back. Let me know in comments as far as like how do you do, and what are your practices. There is one more practice that I want to actually show for aiming, and I did this quite a few times when you're doing a draw. So you put the ball right next to the rail, okay? And then take one ball, put it like this too, okay? Now, this one is a little bit harder because it's going to teach you exactly the point. And if you hit this ball just a little bit off, what's going to happen is just going to bounce it back like this, or maybe, uh, and also the draw is quite difficult. Now, again, I'm doing this live because I wanted to show you there's no uh, gimmicks with these videos and whatnot. So, again, let's do a draw. Again, you see below. What you want to happen in this case, okay, is when you are doing these draws, that the ball, you noticed when I did a draw, the ball kind of went this way, okay, about 3 to 4 inches. It's not too bad, okay. I'm just, because of the angle of the camera and everything, I can't really like concentrate in order to do the whole part. But what you want it to happen when you're practicing is when you hit the ball, it should roll back and at least make sure it's about a foot, or in this case, let's say from this diamond, well, you can't see the diamond, but from this diamond to this diamond, okay? So from this diamond, I want the cue ball to come back all the way back here, okay? So let's do it again. This time I'm going to concentrate, okay? So much better. Look, can't even fit the finger. It was perfectly aligned coming back, and it went way more than one diamond. So in that case, what you do next is this. You take the ball like this. So we were about 2 diamonds away, okay? And now you go about a diamond even more. This type of draw shot technique practicing, it's like I said, much harder. I usually would do something like this after I do the actual, when I'm playing, kind of like on these, right? So again, the draw shots, these are much simpler than the one on the rail here, okay? So I'm gonna try to avoid this. It's straight, perfect. So again, do this about 10 to 20 times. You see what I meant? I didn't concentrate, I just did that, and basically what you do is do this, like I said just now, 10 to 20 times repetitively, meaning you cannot do the stop shot. Okay, perfectly aligned. You saw it perfectly aligned, and it went way over 2 feet or 2 diamonds away. Okay, hope you like this video, and like I said, leave some comments as far as your suggestions, or how did you learn your draw shots as a pool player.